we've established a special response team at the department. We're multi-jurisdictional now. We have our own members. We have members at the SAU College. We've established a special response team at the department. We're multi-jurisdictional now. We have our own members. We have members at the SAU College. We also have members that just recently have joined the Putnam County Sheriff's Office. And I'm going to touch base on some of the reasons why that is so good for us, besides being able to have a larger group of people to select the best from. And if something was to happen in the county or out at the college, then I, as a commander, I have some people to draw from that know the area, and he gives the best intelligence possible. Real quick, I'm not real big on statistics. You can pick and choose the statistics as you want to, but I am big on numbers. As a machinist, until a die maker, you just about have to be a mathematician. So I like numbers. But since my career started in 2002, which is when I became a certified officer of Magnolia, nationwide there's been 1,467 officers killed. That number is way too high. In 2008, and this is the latest, FBI runs 1 year behind on correlation of data. In 2008, 56,872 officers were assaulted that required medical attention. And that's what they base. There's probably more that were assaulted that didn't require, but that doesn't go in the database. In Arkansas, there are 7,000 certified police officers out there for jail staff. So for like a sheriff's office, for every deputy you have on the road, you normally have 2 members of the jail staff. So that's just some numbers I want to run by y'all. One of the reasons that I was tasked last January, and I was last February, with getting a special response team together, is we do raids pretty much every so often, targeting the drug, not necessarily drug dealers, but the kingpins of the drug trade in Magnolia. We're going to go over some numbers in a minute, and I'll tell you, that'll show you what kind of money we're talking about these guys are dealing with. But while we've been doing this, we've come up with a lot of weaponry, bulletproof vests. We have one fully automatic AK-47 that in and of itself can destroy a whole night shift of patrol officers. Patrol officers are great at traffic enforcement. If we're doing our patrols right, minor crime suppression. We do our own investigations. A patrolman in Magnolia, when we hit the streets, we're investigators, traffic enforcement, DWI enforcement, everything rests on the shoulders of one patrolman. And we issue the best that we can. But the training we get when we go to the academy is 420 hours, and that covers everything that we could possibly run into, which, as my daddy said, I know a little bit about everything, but not really good at anything. So it limits them on what they can do. So, like I said, I was tasked with coming up with a special response team. And what it's tasked for, our primary goal in life is to save lives. When we're sent to a scene, and we've all watched the movies where they kick through the doors and everybody's shooting everybody, and it makes good movies. The job that we have when we get to a scene is to make sure everybody leaves there safely, and that includes suspects. Some of the things, when I got into it, it didn't quite go the way I thought it would. But now I've got a little over 1,000 hours of tactical training, and I've come to realize that the best thing I can do is I'm going to coin a phrase that we use a lot, is surprise, speed, and violence of action. And through those 3 things, it sounds horrible, but it saves lives, including suspect lives. Okay, one thing I want to talk about is the drug trade that we have here in Magnolia. It's a quite little secret, we have a drug problem. Anyway, you got a lot of folks say, oh, no. Well, I get to go in places that some folks never get to see in this town, and we have one. A kilo of cocaine, which is at least a little less than a pound, when they buy it, and they don't buy here, they go somewhere around Dallas. These are not prices. The closer you get to Mexico, the cheaper it gets. If you go to Dallas and buy a kilo of cocaine, you pay $6,500 for it. When you cut it and sell it at the smaller pieces in the street for a street value of $26,000, they make a profit of $19,500. That kind of profit, you know, even some honest people start looking at profit margins. A kilo of marijuana, which is the most common drug we run into. Cocaine's the second most common drug. $2,200 for a kilo. It sells, well, they part it out for dime bags and nickel bags, which basically means a $5 bag, a $10 bag, or a $25 bag for a quarter. They sell it for $6,800. I didn't do the profit margin on that, but it's pretty high sale, around $4,000. Methamphetamine, which the federal government has done us a real good favor by saying, keep track of this and keep track of that. So it's not as bad. Most of the methamphetamine we get in now is shipped in pre-made from Mexico. And the bad thing is it comes in a lot better form. These guys are making their bathtubs at home. So this stuff is killing people left, right, and sideways. If I take $200 and I go down to 3 or 4 stores here in Magnolia, I can buy everything I need to make methamphetamine, and I make a $2,000 profit. It sells for $20 a hit, and that's, you know. Now I'm gonna real quick. I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I want some folks to understand something real quick. You've heard that you do meth one time, you're hooked. It's a scientific fact. Your brain produces dopamine. Every time you laugh and you feel good, your brain is producing a chemical called dopamine. Methamphetamine has one molecule different than dopamine. So when you take it, your body quits making dopamine, what makes you feel good. So the day after you took it the first time, you wake up and you feel bad, you feel like you got a hang on it. And a friend of yours says, well, look, man, you only tried it once, do it one more time, make yourself feel better, it'll be all right. You're locked in. Every time you take it, dopamine quits making more. These people will get down to where they'll steal, rob, and kill family members to feel better. To see someone come off of that drug is like watching a torture camp video in Vietnam. It's horrible. I've got to work in jail some, and it's unbelievable how bad it is. But moving on, I hate this stuff. Local gang problems. Something else we don't think we see a whole lot of in Magnolia. That we've identified here in town, these are groups that are larger than just our town. You know, you've got the West Side Boys and South Centrals, and these are guys that live here and they've made their own little gangs here. But that actually answers to somebody outside of here, or claim to answer to somebody out here. Blood Scripts, which most of us heard, the Pyrees, which right now are they're a faction of the Bloods, and they're responsible for most of our violence right now. The Folks, the People, and that's the gangs that are just nationwide. You can go to any township in Arkansas to Washington State, you're going to run into these gangs over and over. The other two that you have here is outlaw biker gangs and banditos and Sons of Secrecy, which is if they come through here and they do anything here, it's as they're moving through. We don't have a branch here, but Texarkana does on both counts. The problem we have with the gangs here is there's no leadership. In Chicago, Houston, Shreveport, Dallas, it's a structure. These guys are in it to make money, and it's like a business. They have presidents, vice presidents, they use different names, and it goes on down the line. They all call it putting in work. When you're putting in work, you're selling dope, you're breaking in places, you're stealing stuff. They're making money, that's all they're in it for. What we have here that makes these gangs so violent to us is there's no structure. These guys decide, hey, look, I'm going to start a gang called the Bloods. They're nationwide, everybody knows them. They don't know anything about the Bloods. So what they do is, what makes me look good, what makes me look tough, what makes me look mean, I don't want to be the leader, and that's where the violence comes from. Another problem we have here that we don't have in bigger towns is bigger places where they have that structure, nobody wants to cross nobody else. So these guys over here do their business, these guys over here do these business, these guys over here do their business. Here what we have is all of these gangs, if somebody goes over here and they says, look, I want sell methamphetamine today, or I need methamphetamine. Well, the Bloods don't have it, but Power Reeds do. These guys will go over here and they'll buy from them, they'll sell to them. So it's, everybody's in it for money, power, and they're crossing lines. We arrest people, you call what they call colors. You got a guy wearing a red shirt, because he's blood, with a blue rag hanging out of his back pocket. This means he sells dope for the Crips. So it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. Sometimes I'll piece all this stuff together, but it makes it extremely dangerous. Well, real quick, I've worked 13 homicides in my career so far. I've caught most of the ones, and I don't know, everybody has bad luck, well, I'll get more than my share. Real quick, I worked 2 homicides on, now these homicides that I'm fixing to call out are homicides that I worked that are directly gang related. It was either over drugs, money, or power. And see if I can touch off on some of these real quick. And if I can run where I wrote it down at. Okay. We have one called St. Valentine's Day Massacre because it happened on Valentine's Day. There was 2 boys killed, 1 shot in the leg. And what it was a push. A younger member wanted to be the king, or wanted to run it. And he killed the one that was running it, and 2 guys that were there. And that's all the work that was there. Larry Street, which is probably one of the hardest ones for me. I mean, I've seen some stuff. This is going to be one of those things that's far over here. Got a call one night. They were having a party on Larry Street. Everybody seemed to be real nice. I get out a lot there at the parties to make sure everybody's trying to play nice. And prior to me getting there, what I didn't know was they had a fight and they had kicked some guys out. They were lower gang members and younger guys, and they didn't like being kicked out. So they slipped off through the woods and armed themselves and come back 2 hours later, between the time I got there and left. When I returned to the scene because of the shots fired call, there was 2 boys laying on the ground. Neither one was from Magnolia. They were from out of state. They were going to SIU College, and they heard about a party going on. And I did CPR when I went on for 15 minutes, and he didn't make it. And that is a haunting thing for anybody to have to go through one time. Guy that they called Barnyard, Antonio Barnes, was killed on Caldwell Street by another gentleman because he was on the wrong side of town. And that was what he admitted in the interrogation, that he didn't belong on my street, I run that street. So anyway, that's the kind of violence we're dealing with. Well, they're extremely dangerous. We went through that, didn't we? Went through weapons that when we do raids, we take all the weapons and all the dope out of the houses. We have, in one raid last year, we recovered 3 kilos of cocaine. Now, we talked about how much cocaine cost a while ago. If he had sold it for a street value at $26,000, then we're probably talking about $80,000 or $70,000 worth of drugs that we took out of one house. We can't stem the flow of drugs by catching them coming into Magnolia on the roads because you don't never know who's bringing it in. And by busting the dealers that are out here on the street corner that's piecing it out, we're only talking about probably getting 1,000th of what's actually coming in on that load. But by hitting these bigger dealers, the guys that have the kilos and half kilos at their houses, when we hit them, a lot of these guys buy on credit. And they're kind of like me. And I know what happens when my credit comes due. Either they come get my stuff or they come get me. Well, in this situation, they come get me. But by hitting them and taking their money away from them, it takes a while for them to build back up. So that's one reason when you hear about us doing these raids, that's what we're doing. We're trying to get these bigger guys and hit them hard and take that money away from them. And if they don't have money, they can't buy dope. And if you don't have good credit, you don't go to Dallas and get a load of this or that. So that's one reason we do these raids. On the flip side of that, on these numbers, this 1,467 officers that were killed since I started, a little over 300 of them were tactical officers that were killed serving drug warrants. We take our job very seriously. Now down to what I was telling y'all that I had different members. We've got 4 members that are on from the Magnolia Police Department. We have 2 members from SAU, and we'll give 3 members, I believe, from the County Sheriff's Office. That will give us a 9-man entry team. That's That is pretty much a minimum that we like to use to go make a rate on a house. By having overwhelming force, you take away their tactical advantage. By taking away their tactical advantage, they don't do anything stupid and you have to hurt them. So like I said, overwhelming force a lot of times keeps us from having to hurt anyone. And that's the goal, is not to ever have to hurt anyone. We'll kind of move this along. This is going a little longer than I thought it was. Now, when we have our team members, it's a process to select them. One of the things that as a team commander I get to do is I get to pull their files and look back and see what kind of patrolman, what kind of person they are out there on the street, and select people that they've got to be physically fit, probably better than me. Because I have to set the standard. They have to have a mentality for the job. You can have all the most gung-ho person you want to, but if he's so gung-ho he can't go from right here, you know, with preparation to do the worst that you can do, to right here to calm a situation down, he's useless to me. He can't bring himself where he needs to be and be a safe individual, he's useless. And then they have a firearms qualification course and a PT course that are interlaced, and they have to pass that test. Once all these things are done, then I send them to a school where they learn tactics. And we have a basic school of an 80-hour school that they go to. That's their starting point. That's before they ever specialize. That's just to be able to help me and go through the door and be a safe officer. And that's kind of a special selection process. Only about 1 in 10 people have the mentality for the job and be physically fit and able to fire a weapon as well. That's the stay on the test. Now, on the other part of it, it's kind of an expensive chore. We've been lucky enough, the unit, the vehicle we used at this time was donated to us by the Drug Task Force, and a local business here in town donated us all the iron to fix it where we can use it, and then I get to do most of the labor. That's always the fun part. We've got a long way to go. What we want to do in the end is we'll talk about serving drug warrants and this kind of stuff. That's only a part of what we want to be able to do. That's the most dangerous part, and that's what everybody normally wants to hear about. But what we really want to do is stuff like search and rescue. People get lost. That's one reason we're multi-jurisdictional. That way, if I can go hook my guys up with county guys, and we go out there and we look for people. You know, people get lost in the woods. I mean, old people every year that we lose in the woods during squirrel season. You know, they got to be fine. We've invested. We've bought a bullet heat sensor that a lot further than we can see. You can pick up heat and let us know what's out there. And it wasn't cheap, but it's will be well worth it when it comes time to go find somebody. You know, human life, you can't put a price tag on it. Criminal control and suppression is another thing that we want to do. We want to put some of these guys out in the forest and go around, and a lot of times you don't have to do anything, you just have to be seen. Special event security. We've got somebody comes in here. Somebody comes in here that has threats made against them. You know, like if the governor comes down here, I would like to put 2 or 3 guys that we know what people we have in our town that we want to keep our eyes on. They've got their own people to watch. Active shooter situation. Our schools, because of the allure of the drug trade, we have a faction of each one of these gangs in the schools. Last year, I know of one individual we took 16 bags of marijuana off of, and I think there was a substantial amount of crack cocaine he had with it. These are other things that potentially could be a great problem. If we have an active shooter in the school, they get to shoot out the school, and patrol can get there quick enough to stop it, and he barricades himself, then we have a situation. We're lucky enough to have a very good negotiators on our team that will take over at that point in time. We want to try to get good at hiring or rescue. We don't have that many hiring places, so if somebody gets on a water tower, we got to get them down. These are the kind of things I would like to work toward. You know, it's kind of being civic-minded. It ain't all about kicking doors and screaming and hollering. It's about helping people. That's about all I really have.
Anybody have any questions? Glad to answer questions.
Last week there was an officer killed in Arlington, Texas. and she had gone on a domestic abuse call. They thought the threat was over.
Right.
And I think the city's now reviewing their procedures on when they send more than one officer to a call.
Right.
What's Magnolia's policy?
Our policy is to send 2 officers to all major disturbances. In all domestics. In domestic, you always get 2 people. There's always 2 parties, and you can't kill 2 parties with 1 person. So get it separated, for safety's sake. And then you always, like the situation with her, the suspect left, went and armed himself. The officer was there taking the report, he returned, and they both of them in the cell.
Who pays for the officers to go to tactical school?
Most of the schools, when you get into the fairly cheap, and we have a training fund that if there's any budget left at the end of the year for regular patrol, we get leftovers. And then, I had 2 officers that went with me to Little Rock last time. They paid their own way, $495, they paid their own. That's another thing real quick. These guys donate their time, buy their own gear, and their own protective equipment. And they're donating everything we get through donation, actually. If the training, if we have any training budget left over, we use it. Yes, sir. Do you have a question?
That sort of answers part of the question. Do you have the equipment that you really think is necessary? Are you better armed than your opponent?
We can't get better armed than our opponents. They have, one of the weapons that I didn't mention here was HK-91. It's better than the rifle our military carries at this time. That's another thing, you know, if you run into a house, if we send patrol like we've been doing for years in the houses, eventually we're gonna go through the door and there's gonna be somebody with an SKS or AK-47, and they will decimate patrol. What we'll wind up with is 3 or 4 dead officers. Along with the protective equipment, the tactics that are used, that I've went off and I've learned, they save lives. Patrolmen go up, they knock on the door, and the guy opens the door, and he sees the police officer. This has happened several times. He slams the door in the face. At that time, the police officer has the right to breach the door and go in. He breaches the door and goes in, uses poor tactics, and they call it the fatal phone. When you go through a doorway, you're lined up for it. You don't need no aim. All you got to do is point and shoot. And we'll never be armed as well. We can be trained better, and we can be protected better. A lot of our guys are wearing the patrol vest I'm wearing now when we're doing raids. No ballistic panels in them. So we can be better equipped. Yes, sir.
Sergeant Raspberry, I want to thank you for coming today because this is what I want our citizens to know is what's going on in our town. And I know you were nervous, but thank you. We need to be informed on what's going on.
Getting to ride around a car, I'm lucky enough, it takes a long time in a community this size. We're small and clannish, you know, every part of the community's that way. We all have our little groups and cliques. I have been lucky enough to be accepted by several cliques, I should say, in this town. And I've got to see in the places that I didn't think I'd ever get to see as a patrolman. We have a major drug problem. If we were to reduce the drug, if we did not have a drug problem in Magnolia, we wouldn't have a burglary problem. Because most of our burglars that we arrest, they're breaking into places and buying or stealing something worth $1,000 and selling it for 30 or 40 just to survive another day. Everybody ought to get to see that part. Yes, sir.
What about repeat offenders? Are you having success on the prosecution?
It's really hard. There's such a gap between the enforcement part of law enforcement and the judicial part. I don't know why we can't keep burglars, that we've had 3 or 4 residential burglars, we can't keep them locked up. I don't know if we're pushing the 3-time felon rule, which extends and it's an enhancement. I don't know what's happening and why we're not getting there.
You're having a good bit of repeat offenders on drugs and break-ins?
We have, on drugs, it's just, I hate to say it's just like a revolving door. It's the same people that came in yesterday will be in tomorrow. It has got to a point and this ain't really bragging, it's just trying to be a good officer and treating people right. It's got to the point where 90% of the time when I serve a warrant, I pick the phone up, I call the guy and say, look, you got another warrant, you know, can you get in here tomorrow and get taken care of? And they'll come turn themselves in. You know, I know where their mothers live, where their sisters live. So, I mean, there's no point in running. They know they're going to be treated okay, so they'll come on in. But then it's kind of like what was it, who was the guy on Andy Griffith? No, the one that went in and showed us. We got a lot of those, you know, kind of like I got a fingerprint, you know, I got that. We shouldn't have that kind of familiarity with people that are stealing and breaking into people's homes. And this is a real big, my deal with this is, if he's willing to break in your home and take that risk, and for some reason you startle him, he didn't figure out you were at the house when he would come in, he will kill you to get away. So that's the reason people that do those kind of crimes, they're classified non-violent. And for me, that's one of the most violent. When someone violates the sanctity of your home, they don't get no more violent than that to me. I've had women, you know, it's not going to sound pretty, but I've had women describe their home being robbed or broke into as being raped. I've had guys say that too, but I don't see how they can, you know, figure that out. Yes, sir.
What weapon is for you to have for self-defense in your home?
Boy, it's a big liability issue. There's a lot of reading on the internet about that, though. I'll tell everybody the same thing on it. If they're going to keep a weapon for self-defense, anything that they can control and keep on their, you know, retained. The last thing anybody wants to do is to they have a phrase for us. Every time we go to any call, there's one weapon involved. We bring it. So if you're not willing to do what you have to do, if you bring a weapon to a gunfight, leave the weapon alone. Don't give him one. That's all. You really got to do some soul searching when you go there. Yes, sir.
I've heard that a good self-defense weapon is a can of rust and bee spray.
That's how he was off the internet, isn't it?
That's where I got from the internet.
Yeah. I use the guys that work kind of like me. I use the spray and pray maybe. They're like, you shoot and run. I'm saying, yeah, I spray my pepper spray and run. I'm scared of this thing. It goes boom. It's real loud. But yeah, I mean, if you start to think about how self-defense stuff, number one, get you some training, know the law, and then like I said, if you're going to have a weapon, make sure it's something that you're comfortable with, and you're not going to give it to a suspect. You just got to be real careful with that. The safety of your home, there's nothing more important than that. And that's what I'm out here trying to do. I'm trying to make sure that you're safe at home. There's a quote from Winston Churchill, and I wish I could remember it, and I'm going to try to remember it for you real quick. It says something to the effect, we sleep soundly in our beds at night because violent men stand watch to wreak violence on those who would do us harm. I'm not sure that's not an exact quote, but that's kind of close. You know, these guys out here working these streets, sometimes we don't like to see them, especially when they're behind us. Every one of them is willing to give his life to make sure you keep yours. Yes, sir.
Would y'all consider it